Hello everyone, my name is Aranis and we are going to start with the second lecture of Advanced Performance Management. We are going to start with a question which has been examined in P5, which is APM, back in 2013, June 2013, in which examiner wants students to analyze the concept of activity-based costing and activity-based management system, both. Right. So let's start the reading of the question. We need to identify a few areas. Although I asked you guys to study it before the lecture, but still, if you haven't studied that, read this part, we will read it together, or you may skip first 5 minutes in order to in order to start directly solution. Right. So, Navier Aerials manufacture satellite dishes for receiving satellite television signals. The company supplies major satellite TV companies who install standard satellite dishes for their customers. The company also manufactures and install a small number of specialized satellite dishes to individuals or business with specific needs resulting from poor reception in their location. Now, what is important here? Important is that just a second, yeah. Important is that company is manufacturing right now two satellites. The first one is the standard satellite, and the second one is a specialized product, right? So a standard product, a specialized product, that automatically comes into the mind that if the company is manufacturing a standard product, then obviously um, procedure is simple, output is identical. There is no need for innovation or different type of components for different products. So it's more simple concept. If the company is preparing specialized satellite, obviously requirements are different, requirements of the customers are different parts company will use different parts, analysis of different orders. So both our products are different by nature from each other. So that is kind of thing which is important for us if we are moving towards an ABC concept. All right, uh, then the CEO wants to initiate the program of cost reduction at Navier. Now, this is something which company wants, right? Cost reduction program at Navier. His plan is to use activity-based management to allocate cost more accurately and to identify non-value-added activities. As we discussed in the previous lecture, that activity-based management system is divided into two major areas. The first one is at operational level, and the second one is at strategic level. Operational level, we have value-added and non-value-added activities, and at management level, we have value-added and non-value-added product and customer. So it's basically something which is more related to the operational level. The first department to be analyzed is the customer care department, as it has been believed for some time that the current method of cost allocation is giving unrealistic results for both the products. Now, what the company is doing at present, the finance director absorbed the of customer care into product cost on per unit basis using data in table number 1. He then tries to correct the problem of unrealistic costing by making rough estimates of the cost to be allocated to each product based on operations director impression of the amount of work of the department. In fact, he simply adds $100 above the standard absorbed cost to the cost of the specialized dishes to cover the assumed extra work involved to the customer care. So what they are doing, they are distributing cost on per unit basis, and since this specific product require uh, since this specific product require more extra work, so they are just adding $100 above the standard cost. So that is basically the problem in this case right now. What's next? The cost accountant has gathered the information for the customer care department in table number 2 from interviews with the finance and customer care staff. She has used this information to correctly calculate the total cost of each activity base costing in table number 3, right? So correctly, that means you don't need to correct it, right? That you have to assume everything is perfectly fine. In comparison of the result to the current standard absorption costing to activity based costing for the standard and specialized dishes. Once it's done, the CEO wants you to consider the implication for management of the customer care process of the cost of each activity in that department. The CEO is especially interested in how this information may impact on the identification of non-value added activities and quality management at Navier. So the information is given below, right? Existing costing data. Now, what the company is doing right now is these are the overheads, $707,000 overhead, and the company is producing 16,000 orders, where each order consists of 5.5 dishes. Now, this is existing cost data, right? Let me show you what will be the costing in this part. All right. Right now, company is having how many orders? Let me check. 16,000 orders, where each order is of 5.5 dishes, right? So 16,000 orders times 5.5 dishes, that means around 88,000 dishes in total, right? So 707,000 divided by, um, what was that figure? 88,000, I guess. Yeah, that's approximately 8.03. Let me check it again. 16,000 times 5.5, that makes 88,000, right? So 707,000 divided by 88,000 will give you around 8.03, approximately $8. So the cost per dish, standard dish is $8, and cost per specialized dish will be 8 plus $100. That makes around $108. So this is basically the current costing system of the company, right? Now let's move to the next page. Let's see what we have. All right. Now this is basically a data which is related to activity-based costing, right? And you have to assume that this is perfectly fine, right? Uh, what examiner did is he has given you some basic details of activity ABC. Like out of total overheads, 40% overheads are actually related to handling inquiries and preparing quotations for potential orders, relating to 35,000 inquiries and quotes per year. Um Receiving of actual orders, cost relating to receiving of actual orders is around 10%. Customer credit check is 10%. Supervision of orders through manufacturing to delivery is 15%. Complaint handling is 25%. Now, this is a major cost relating to 3,200 complaints. Now, let's see what examiner has to say related to these costs further. Total department cost is allocated using staff time, as this drives all of the other costs in the department. 90% of both inquiries and orders are for standard dishes. The remainder are for specialized dishes. That means what? How many orders we are actually receiving? We are actually receiving 16,000 orders, right? So it says 90% of both inquiries and orders are for standard dishes. So major product is the standard one. Handling inquiries and operating code for specialized dishes take 20% of the staff time allocated to this activity. Um, the process of receiving, all right. Handling inquiries and preparing codes for specialized dishes take 20% of the staff time. Uh, let's make a analysis of these total number of orders. Let's see what we have. There are 16,000 orders, right? Let me do it on note. All right. There are 16,000 orders, right? There are 16,000 orders, out of which 90% is related to specialized customers, and 10% is related to 90% is for standard and 10% is for specialized. So that means 16,000 times 0.9, that makes 14,400 orders are for standard customers, and then 10% is around 16,000 is for specialized customer, right? This is basically the scenario. And what the question is saying is, handling inquiries and preparing quotations for specialized dishes take 20% of staff time. That makes sense. We will discuss it later. The process for receiving an order, checking customer credit, and supervisions of the order is same for both specialized dish order and standard dishes. 50% of complaints received are for the specialized dish order. Each Standard dish order contains an average of 6 dishes. Each specialized dish order contain average of one dish, right? So this means what? This means that standard product each order contain average of 6 dishes. That means 14,000 orders are related to standard and each order is of 6 dishes. That means 14,400 times 6 is 86,400. 86,400 dishes are for standard and 1600 uh, 1600 dishes are for the specialized one, right? And there is surprisingly, it says that 50% complaints are received are for specialized dishes. That means half complaints are for, if there are how many complaints? There are 3,200 complaints. So that means 3,200 divided by 2 is 1,600 complaints are for specialized dishes and 1,600 complaints are for standard dishes. So this is basically what does the question says, right? Now, what's next? Sorry. Now, what is in table number 3? Sorry. In table number 3, it's the examiner has given you complete detail of the total cost, and you have to assume that this is perfectly fine. Handling inquiries and preparation of quotations, cost is given, receiving actual loss order cost is given, everything cost is given. So this is basically the total cost distributed under activity based costing system, right? Now what the examiner wants you to do is, the first requirement is to evaluate the impact of using ABC. Now, I don't know whether you have discussed this thing before or not, but whenever you see this term, evaluate, this means that you have to identify both options. I mean, evaluate means you have to identify if company's current strategy. If current strategy is fine, you have to give the reason why you think that company should continue with the current strategy. And if you think that company is not doing right, company is not on the right path, then you have to give the reason why you think that the company is not on the right path and what should be the what can company can do alternatively in order to improve its performance, in order to improve its strategy. So this is basically what the evaluation means. So in short, whatever is company is doing right, you have to give reason for that. Whatever company is doing wrong, you have to give the reason and along with some suggestion and maybe some recommendation, a very brief recommendation if you want to do so. So evaluate the impact of using activity based costing compared to the existing costing system for customer care on how cost of both type of the products. So what you are supposed to do, you are supposed to calculate the impact, identify the impact, that if we use activity based costing, what will happen to cost, what will happen to profit, what will happen to sales, what will happen to profitability of the product, everything. You have to just analyze what will be the impact, right? So this is the first part. Second part is assess how the information on each activity can be used and improved upon at Navier in assisting the cost reduction and quality management. So we'll do it later. We will discuss this part later. But first, we need to identify what will be the impact, right? In last video, in last lecture, we discussed that if company is using activity based costing, if company is using APC principle, there are certain prerequisites, right? We have identified that there are certain prerequisites we have identified. Let me try to open that page if we can. Yes, here it is. We have identified that there are three main requisites that the company, if company should be manufacturing multiple products, nature of the product is different, and major overhead should not be related to a single cost pool. Let's try to evaluate this question according to what we discussed earlier, right? Now, what the situation is that the company is manufacturing multiple products, right? Company is manufacturing two products, so it's not a single product case. So this is basically a situation where company may use ABC provided that both products are different by nature. If products are similar, if the company is two manufacturing two products and the nature of product is same, almost same, then there will be not, then impact of ABC will not be, I mean, it will not be beneficial for the company to use activity-based costing, right? If company is manufacturing two products and both are very different from each other, then ABC can create an impact on the costing of the product, right? So let's try to find out what will be the impact of using ABC, right? First of all, we have to see the cost side. What will happen to the cost, right? What we have identified that the current cost of the company, what is current system, under current system the cost of standard product has been identified as $8 and the cost of a specialized product has been identified as 108 because company just simply add $100 to the overall cost of the product. Now let's see what will happen to the cost of the product if company switch to activity based costing. Let me try to open that page. Yes, here it is. All right. So the situation is that company is total cost of a standard product is 537,320, 537,320, and the company is manufacturing 86,400 units divided by 86,400 units. That means the cost is around, for the specialized product the cost is around 6.21 minus 8, that makes around, there is a reduction of $1.78 per unit, right? So it means that under current system, company, the cost which company has allocated was more than the actual cost which the product is bearing. So initially the product has been identified a low profitable product. Now it's more profitable because the cost is lower, lower as compared with the previous one. Then let's see what is the situation for the other product. $169,680 cost divided by 1600 units of the specialized product, it's around 106.05. Approximately the same situation, the difference is approximately same, right? That means what, which means that whatever costing has been made previously was approximately right because there's still the product has $100 difference in cost if we use ABC. So the cost is around 106.05. So both products are little bit more profitable in activity based costing. If we distribute cost more appropriately, both products are more profitable as compared with the previous, compared with the previous situation, right? Second impact, what will be the impact, right? The first impact is that cost can be reduced. The second impact is that if the selling prices are based on cost, then obviously company will be in a position to reduce its selling price by 1.7 or $1.5 per unit. That is not a significant decrease, but for standard product, it may cause a significant difference because the product itself was $8.7 per unit, and $1.7 decrease compared with $8 cost is a significant one, right? Specialized, maybe it will not create a big impact on the sales of the specialized, but for standard it can be. Second is second so the second situation, second point is related to the selling price, right? Selling price can be reduced. If company wants to reduce the selling price, it may, right? What will be the third impact? Third impact means how this can create something different. Since we have studied that ABC result in more detailed information about the overheads of the product. So if company is using absorption costing, company that means company is just distributing overheads to the product, and although the cost difference is same, but now company knows much about the production overheads, that which production overhead is actually related to specialized product and standard product, and what percentage is related to which activity. So it will result in more detailed information about the overheads of the product, which company can use in future if company wants to control cost of the product, especially considering the situation when the examiner, when CEO wants to reduce cost of the product. We have marked that earlier. So this ABC, activity based costing, can help management to do so, and this cost reduction exercise may create some positive impact on the overall cost of the product, right? What can be the other advantage? Other advantage can be that company can improve its sales volume, company can improve its market share and everything. So this will be the impact of using activity based costing. So you need to identify that, and I mean, if you are saying that you need to identify that and you have to write that. Along with that, you also have to criticize what the company is using right now. So you have to write some points, right? Like for example, if we are distributing overheads on per unit basis, then it's not an appropriate way to do that, because or not all overheads are related to the number of units. There are multiple overheads which are not directly specifically related to the number of units. As we can see here, around 40% cost is related to the number of inquiries, and 25% cost is related to complaints. So 40% and 25%, that means 65% cost is not related to number of units. So base of 65% will change, which is not the case in activity absorption costing basis. So ABC, if we are using absorption costing, we company will be distributing 35% overheads properly, but 65% overheads um, are not. I mean, they are not distributed in a proper way. So that's very important, right? Now, what is the next part? In the next part, examiner asks that assess how the information on each activity can be used and improve upon at NAVIER in assisting cost reduction and quality management in the customer care department. Now, activity based management system, if we use activity based management, then we have to identify which activities are creating the impact, right? So let's make an analysis of the situation. Um, Let me bring you to the statement of the company CEO. The once is done, the CEO wants you to consider implication of the management of the customer care department in the process of the ABC. How the information may impact to identify the non-value added activity. So let's make an analysis of the situation. There are 40% costs which are related to inquiries and quotation per year, and then it says that handling inquiries and preparing quotation for specialized order take 20% of staff time. That means what? That means uh, this is the situation. 86,400 are the specialized product and 1,600 is the sorry, 86,400 is the standard product and 1,600 is the specialized product. 20% of time is actually related to 1,600 customers. Uh, does that make sense? Probably yes. Why? Because since this is a specialized product, since customer wants their requirement to be done, to be implemented while preparing the product, so it's really very important to identify those requirements and to prepare a proper quotation, because if company fail to incorporate certain cost in the quotation, company will not be able to recover it in future. So that need more analysis, that need more concentration for the company. So it makes sense that 20% cost is actually related to quotation handling, and that is a very important aspect. We cannot uh, question is that value added activity? Yes, probably, because if you do not prepare a proper quotation, you will not be able to cost properly to the customer. Ultimately, you will fail to recover total cost from the customer. So that's really very important, as this activity can be identified as value added activity. Receiving actual orders, 10% cost, that makes sense, because once you receive actual cost, processing will require same thing. So irrespective of the specialized product or the standard product, both cost is distributed in a similar manner. So receiving actual orders, customer credit checks, and supervision, all these three are the value added activities because uh, these are necessary. I mean, value added in the sense that if you do not perform these tasks, you will not be able to complete the transaction, the order. So these are some compulsory processes. You cannot avoid these processes. You may try to reduce its cost, but you cannot avoid these processes. These are value added products, processes, activities. The only activity that is creating issues is basically this complaint handling cost. Complaint handling cost is 25% of the total cost. Now, what do you mean by this? 707,000 is the total. All right, it has already been distributed. Sorry. Uh, Now, complaint handling cost is 88,375. 88,000, sorry, 88,375 divided by how many units we were manufacturing? 86,400. It's around $1.02, or precisely we can do it like this, that 1,600 complaints divided by 86,400, that means there are around 1.8 complaints per dish, or if you multiply by it by 1,000, there are 18 complaints per 1,000 dishes, right? Or, and in the second product, there are 1,600 orders and there are 1,600 complaints. So that means each, on average, each order has a complaint. That is very high. That is significantly high ratio. And why this is so? Because you see, there can be just one reason, that since this is a specialized product, so there are a lot of issues in bespoke products, because sometimes customer is unable to explain it properly. Sometimes customer wants something else, but it explains something different to the company. So usually bespoke softwares has some issues. Bespoke software products usually have some issues. So this can be related to that part, but still complaint handling is a non-value added activity, and it is soaking up around 70, sorry, it's 707.25. It's around $176,000 cost is actually allocated to complaint, which is too high. So company should try to reduce this cost. This is a non-value added activity. Something has to be done in order to reduce cost. How we can do that? um, there can be some ways of reducing that. I mean, company can try to make product more simple, use some standard product. If you use a standard product, make things simple, so company can reduce the number of complaints. But this cost cannot be eliminated, because um, I mean, this can be reduced to a certain level, but this cannot be eliminated, because bespoke or specialized product are bound to have some complaints. However, what company can do is company should try to reduce the complaint number of complaints related to the standard dishes, because if you are preparing a standard product, there is no reason for you to prepare a defective product, right? So try to prepare a best product in the first step, so that you can reduce actually 50% cost, because 50% cost is there can be no reason behind the 50% cost, because that is the standard product, so you must reduce that cost. However, the remaining 50%, there is a question mark whether we can reduce it or not, because that is a specialized product. So if you want to analyze activity based management system in this case, so what we can do is we can identify those products which are those activities which are value added activity. So handling inquiries and preparing quotations for potential customers, that we have identified, it's a value added activity, because if you do it wrong, you will not be able to recover 100% cost from the customer, and obviously that will create some losses for the company in future. Receiving actual cost, that is a very insignificant, just 10% of the overheads, normal traditional operational cost, and that is necessary because you have to process the orders. customer credit check, that is necessary because if you don't do credit checks, you will that will result in bad debts and that kind of thing. So that is a value added activity, you can classify that. And supervisions of order, that is also a value added activity. So the only problem with this in this situation is this complaint handling, which is 25%, right? So this is basically something which the examiner wanted. So what we did in this part, in this question, is first of all we tried to evaluate the what will be the impact of using ABC. We did two things here. First, we identified that why we think that absorption costing is not accurate, what the company is doing is not accurate, because company is simply distributing overheads on per unit basis, which has certain issues that traditionally we were unable to allocate cost properly. So we have allocated more cost to the product. Actually, cost was lower. Since cost was less, that means initially we have identified the product to be more costly and less profitable. If we move to APC, the product seems to be less costly and more profitable. The information which we get from the use of activity based costing can be used for controlling for cost reduction process as CEO wants. And uh, that cost here, that information is helpful in activity based management system, that what activities should be continued, which activities should be discontinued. And if we get more information about the product, then we can identify certain products which are profitable and not profitable as well. Similarly, if and for the second part, what we did is we have to identify how this information can be used. So we have identified that there are certain activities which are value added activities that should be continued. There are certain activities which are not value added activities that should be discontinued or reduce the cost. We have identified that customer complaint, 50% cost can be eliminated with 50% cost to be reduced. The rest of the costs are necessary and value added for the company. One point which is very important for the first part A is that there are the nature of the two product is completely different. So if company uses APC, it's basically something uh, which is the most um, important reason for the company to use activity based costing. I mean, that is the reason why companies should use activity based costing, and can create some and can change the cost as per the requirement of the CEO, right? So this is basically the debriefing of this question. What I want you guys to do is try to read examiner, try to write this situation at your own, write the answer at your own, and then compare your answer with what examiner wrote in the paper. Because if your 70 to 80%, 70 to 75% points match with the what examiner said, that means you are on the right track, right? In the next video we will do one more question of activity based management system, and then there are two questions which you guys are supposed to do at your own, right? Thank you so much. Thank you for listening this video.